You noble diggers, all stand up now.
Welcome, comrade. Never forget the forms.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to my channel. Today we will be talking about Plato's Republic, as promised. Plato's Republic is a lot like all the other dialogues, but also not like all the other dialogues. It is the culmination, his magnum opus, his masterpiece. He is attempting to do something more here. I also want to start this by apologizing. I messed up Plato's life timeline. I thought he was like 20 when Socrates was put to death. He was 29 and he lives to like 70. And he wrote the Meno in his 40s and the Republic here in his 50s. But anyways, you see the progression of his life, right? As a young man, he's satisfied with the answers that Socrates gives him, which are, you know that you know nothing, right? Know for certain, only that. And then by the end of his life, we're talking about the forms and the cave, and we're going to get into it today. But the Republic is not just the cave, unlike in popular imagination. It's a very long book, and its object has nothing to do with the cave. He's metagaming, right? He's doing what we're doing. He's attempting to organize society, right? Why else do this, right? Why else care about history, about philosophy, right? It's not technical. It doesn't make you any money. It's an outcrying of your outrage, of your absolute indignance at the stupidity, at the absurdity with which everything is run these days. But anyways, it's broken into a number of books, which are just chapters, okay? In book 1, we're going to be discussing what is justice. We're actually not discussing it. We're only going to discuss book 7, and maybe we'll discuss some things on the way. Book 7 is where we get the cave, though, and that's the important bit out of the Republic, but not the object of the Republic, as I was just saying. But it starts with an analysis of what is justice. And just like every other dialogue that we've had up until this point, it ends in an aporia, in a no road, right? What is justice? Justice cannot be defined, right? Not easily, at least. So in book 2, justice is set out to be shown to be better than injustice. They are dissatisfied with being unable to define justice, and so they'll prove justice is good and then maybe come back to it. Book 3 defines a class. It's not important at all. It's called the Guardian class, though. Book 4 defines justice for a second time. What they say is justice is every member of their class doing their job, a city working efficiently together, right? And now I need you to think, is that what we have, right? Is there justice out there? No. And into the next book, we think about the classes at the upper edge, at the top echelon, near leadership, right? Near leadership. What is a good king? What is a good leader? Plato says, surprise of all surprise, that philosophers should be kings, that the philosophers should be leaders. Interesting. Which philosophers? I think most people would smartly respond. In the next book, in book 6, he gets into the nature of the philosopher kings. We're just skipping over it, though, because philosopher kings don't exist. They've never existed. The closest we see are the communist revolutionary leaders. In my humble estimation, most of them have led to devolved worker states. Vietnam is basically the only example that didn't succumb to this bureaucracy. even if they're still delivering along Marxist lines, it's no longer materialist-led. The conditions that create the caste leadership are not creating, workers. They're bureaucrats. The commitment to Marxism-Leninism that the Beijing University has doesn't overcome the fact that it's not creating the conditions to select revolutionaries, to create the conditions of constant revolution, permanent revolution. But after he's done discussing what the philosopher kings do, right, what they're up to, we get into a discussion of what reality is, what the forms are. He ends the discussion of the philosopher king with the analogy of the sun, because any attempt to metagame history, to try and figure out how it is best to rule, right, to best advance civilization, always ends up at this loggerhead, right, at this debate in philosophy, which is, does thought rule existence or does stuff rule existence? We here believe stuff rules existence, and but the empire that we live in officially does not. That every hegemon throughout history has had some kind of constellation of idealism, of believing that their thoughts, that they themselves overcome, that they had some part to play, that all was not determined from the outset. A line from Beowulf that I go back to over and over again is, "Fate goes ever as she shall." The fate is a great tapestry, a weave. If you could see all the forces directing fate, you would not believe in your choices day to day. And in fact, even that is reflective on how much will you can muster, right? Because the belief in oneself as the arbiter of all action is itself a force. So it naturally has given prevalence to, or given the edge to hegemons time and time again, but only to belie the materialist outcome that was probably guiding their hegemony coming into being. The Dutch, the French, the Spanish, the English, they may have all believed that they worked really hard to do this, and I'm sure they did, but it doesn't matter. They all would have worked hard anyways. You were born in dynasties that work hard, in a situation of competition, of biopolitic, Foucault calls it, of competition between states in Northwestern Europe that demands these dynasties work for the state or else they'll be crushed by other states. It's that simple, right? You're not involved. You have no part to play. But he ends this book on discussion of the philosopher kings with the analogy of the sun, right? That the sun illuminates the earth and it allows us to see things. But it's much better in the next example, in the next book, most famous, which is the analogy of the cave. The cave is simple. I'll probably put up a little video here just so you can see it visually, but I think I can describe it well enough. Imagine you and two friends are sitting chained to a rock. It's dark except for the wall facing you, facing away from you. You are chained to a rock wall behind you, you and your friends. You can look to the left and see them, and look to the right and see the other one, and you can see the wall illuminated in front of you. Everything else is dark. Then, every day, some people, not known to you, would come up behind you and put shadow puppets on the wall. Bunny, and I don't know, that's all I can do. The shadow puppets from day to day would become more real to you than any ideal you can search for within yourself. What is piety? What is justice? What is virtue? Shadow on the wall. Trick, a mummer's farce, to quote Game of Thrones. Power lies where men thinks it lie. But those shadows are as real to you as the ideologies, the hallucinations, the ideological hegemonies that have ruled this earth in contradiction to each other, but with seamless progression through history. Honor, duty, all these things, shadows. And what would happen if one day your bonds were cut? You got up, you left your friends there, and you crawled out of the cave and found yourself in the light of the world. What would the shadows look like compared to the light of the forms of the illuminated sun? It's much the same, he says. It's like coming into contact with wisdom in the forms. You can't make people understand what it is to know justified true belief, knowledge, and that trying to make people understand what truth is like after being set loose from the cave and seeing the wonders of creation out in the real world, descending back into the cave, chaining yourself back up, and attempting to verbally convince your brothers to leave with you. Cannot happen. They believe in the shadows. The puppet shadows on the wall are more real to them than the sun that you speak of. What is the sun? And I want you to remember, Christianity, empire, mercantilism, democracy, doesn't matter. They're all idealistic. They believe that they themselves have been the charters of history, as if all was not decided, as if any idiot would have been slotted into their spot if they had failed to achieve whatever task they had set in front of them, or if that failure of that task mattered at all. At all. It would not disrupt the great weave of fate, the great forces that show what must be. The dynasties in contest with each other, the Slavs, the Anglos, the Chinese. These are realities, materials that we find the world in. And yet, every empire that has ever ruled the world puts thought above stuff, does not believe that there are no such thing as choices, cannot believe that there are no such thing as choices. And more than that, listen to the absurdity, right? That nowadays we have to endure just to bow at the feet of the accidents of history who are our leaders. They believe in idealism, but they're materialists at their core now. But back in Plato's day, they could pretend otherwise. And we still have these same texts from these same rich people. He says, democracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny are the four types of government. And they all lead to baseness. They all lead to bruteness. They all lead to material. That's what he actually references in there. That it feeds your appetites, the beast, that the Christians might understand. But that makes no sense. The ideology of the masters nowadays, even though they tout what masters of the universe they are and what willpower it took to go ascend to their position, their official ideology is materialist all the way down. Capitalism is a materialist ideology. You read the Financial Times, it treats things as if formulaic, as if only can be adjusted, as if driving a giant battleship with the coordination of a well-disciplined ideological core, a deep state. So even though he charges that each of these types of government lead you to baseness, that they have folly within them, that overindulge one type of appetite, one type of baseness. That's what these capitalists believe today. They're idealists to their core. You get 5 billionaires to tell you that it was luck. You get 5 billionaires telling me it was luck, and I'll backtrack on that. But you get one Lehman Brothers partner, or they're been closed since 2008. You get one Wells Fargo analyst. You get one JP Morgan analyst to tell me that there's no such thing as choices, that doesn't happen. It would break them. They are religiously committed to this idea. They believe it in their soul that they're out there making decisions day to day, that they are not the hallucination of dynasties and battles and documents decided well before them. Well before them. And then finally, the greatest attack we level at idealism, right, at this idealistic leadership style that is outdated, that was crushed by the Soviets and now the Chinese, the best, the most progressive, the greatest deliverer of good to its people in history, those two systems, materialists. And it's because of this last criticism, this last instruction in Book 10. It's that poetry should be outlawed because it appeals to the appetites, because it appeals to the emotions. And those are base, those are material. Fool, insipid fool, he believes that he is above that, or at least has the ability to ascend above that temporarily. Wrong, incorrect, not true. Every thought you've had is determined. And also, because of this misbelief, you have neglected your duty in this material world. Dominance is governance. You must be dominant at everything. Everything. Art, culture, trade, peace. This is not something you can neglect. And in fact, because of idealism's ideas about honor and propriety and not wanting to look foolish, right? A fear that it breeds within its people, a shame. White people aren't allowed to compete in the most prestigious, the most advanced form of music today without some kind of excuse, like Eminem has, or Lil Dicky.
First, coerce your brain patterns. Collaborate with time-consuming reprogramming. I apply the flow cannon. The combo so slamming, atomically reconstruct the whole canvas.
Funny fact about a cage, they're never built for just one group. So when that cage is done with them and you still pour it, come for you. The newest, lowest on the totem, well, golly gee, you have been used. You have to build a death machine that down the line will kill you too.
Pioneer gear, cropping the odds with all the proper sprockets and cogs. I bounce with a set of sims equipped with a foul jowl moment, waiting for that great celebrity towel throwing.
The warlord, bring the voodoo. When I bail through, it's crazy like Bellevue. What they tell you, leave that boy alone, like Home Alone. Yeah. Fuck a skull and bone, arrest the.
I know he got some hoe in him, pole on him, extort shit, bully the flow on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1.
That we have, in these last couple generations, invented a new form of music and wordsmith. Artistry is the only way to describe it. And the WASP elite can't accept it.
Hip-hop has done more damage to black and brown people than racism in the last 10 years.
Can't accept it because it is against their religious core, that, what they achieve in their lifetime is completely up to them. And so they have to obey this system of shame and neglect all the beauty in the world. It's like Marx says, the more you have, the less you are, the more you have. It has impoverished our civilization. It has bankrupted us. It has handed hegemony to the Chinese. This is the American century of humiliation because our leaders didn't think right. Our leaders didn't want to share the world that they inherited. They didn't win this war against the Nazis. Any idiot could have beaten the Nazis. They were dumb. They had lost in December of 41, and they just didn't know until it was over. Because they were hallucinating idealists too. This is the key to understanding why we're doing this, right? Why we care about this question. Because it affects governance, right? It directly implies all the answers for governance models if you believe in idealism or materialism. If you believe A, punishment, right? If you believe B, correction, recovery. If you believe A, war, conquest, rights, right? If you believe B, international law, peace, no nukes. We're not going to inherit the stars so long as our leaders don't think correctly. And this misapprehension of thinking comes at root, at base, like a footnote to Plato, but not a good one. His failure to stay honest to Socrates' teachings, right? That is, we can't know shit, not a thing, right? Because what you say or define as no doesn't exist, doesn't occur in nature. And so, when we switch to materialism, I will be seen as a bug intelligence by future generations. They will have read the Canon by the time they enter high school. They will have the ability to reflect critically on the information they indulge in a absolutely dizzying variety of fields that will absolutely swamp me, that will make me insignificant compared to their achievements, their intelligence. And that should be the goal of every generation. How do I make the next generation shit on ours like it's nothing, like they're stunting? Imagine basketball was still played like it was the 50s. Imagine we still had the horse and buggy. Things have to get better, and they haven't since Reagan. I've been meandering a lot this episode. I apologize. Have a nice day.
Us. They not like 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 us.
Hello, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you. This channel has one mission: to prevent civilizational collapse associated with climate change, to prevent 100 million refugees by 2035, to stop 7 billion from starving to death by 2075. And we will do this through one main vehicle. We mean to unite the Anglosphere. We will do this by convincing the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III to apply for statehood as one. And then with this new power, we will be able to negotiate in good faith with the rest of the world on how to tackle this crisis. Thank you and enjoy.